We're here with our guests are from Russia. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and explain to us what they're doing with ecotourism in Russia.
My name is Natalia Moraleva. I'm the president of Ecotourism Development Fund Dersu Uzala, and at the same time I'm the president of the Russian Ecotourism Association. So we are working in this field almost 10 years, and we have NGO, and we also have some travel agency and this Ecotourism Association. We basically worked with Russian protected areas system and closely cooperate with the Russian Minister of Nature Resources, and so we produce a lot of jobs, education, training, prepare the strategy planning for Russian system of protected areas, and as well we start to work as a tour operator and invite people to visit these wonderful places in Russia. And Russia, as you know, is a huge country with a lot of wonderful places, with a lot of possibility for particular ecotourism development, which is include and nature wonderful places and local community, interesting historical and cultural things.
Thank you. So protected areas. And Elena, please.
My name is Elens Ledovskikh. I am the General Director of the Ecotourism Development Fund Dersu Uzala and eco-travel agency called the same name, Dersu Uzala. Actually, we selected this name because Dersu Uzala was a native indigenous guide of one of the first explorers of the Russian Far East, Vladimir Arsenyev. And later, a famous movie by Akira Kurosawa was filmed about this hero. And now Dersu Uzala, for the people around the world, is a symbol of how the person can live in harmony with nature and a symbol of guiding into primordial wildlife without disturbing its balance. And we took this name because we aspire to be the guides for the people from abroad as well as from Russia who would like to visit some very remote primordial nature areas on the earth, like Kamchatka Peninsula, like the Chukchi Peninsula, extreme northeast of our country, like Lake Baikal, South Siberia, Altai and Sayansk mountains on the border of Mongolia, and Tuva. And actually, we offer a wide range of ecological trips and expeditions and ethnography tours, birdwatching tours for the people around the world in Russia. And primarily, we work with Russian Nature Reserve. We have the world's largest system of nature reserves and national parks, more than 100 strict nature reserves and 25 national parks. And
that's a lot. Natalia, I understand this, the Federation looks after ecotourism for Russia-wide. Is that correct? Or what's the area of coverage that your Federation group looks after?
So you see, as Lena told, that we have 135 federal nature protected areas and actually about 14,000 regional protected areas places. And this is the best places for nature in Russia. And of course, it's covered all most removable and interesting and with terms of nature places in Russia, start from Chukotka and Kamchatka and up to Karelia. And we try to, at first we are working with federal government, try to establish the rules and principles of how it should be developed in a federal level, how should be a principle of ecotourism introduced in the practical work of Russian protected areas system. And this is one part of our activity and job, and the other side that we try to show, to develop the practical tour operator work together with the Russian protected areas system and try to introduce in practice the real principles which we declare here, how it should be worked, how it should be developed, how what is the relation between tourists, customers and protected areas. So all things which is we are speaking about, we try to implement in real practice in organizing tours in the Russian protected areas. So as Lena told us, it's a lot of huge system of protected areas in Russia. And of course, for this moment, for our country, it's very important to show, to introduce this system for the whole world at first, and to show to our government that protected area system has the value for the whole world, not only for the Russia, and it's important to develop and support this system.
people around the world are not necessarily very up to date on what's going on in Russia, except what we see on BBC, CNN, or whatever station happens to be where you live. So I'm going to ask some questions so that we can understand a little bit about this. How supportive is the federal government, the current administration, towards working with the protected areas in terms of funding, in terms of other forms of assistance? Okay, Natalia.
Yeah, no, it's not a simple answer for this question.
Yes.
Of course, because the country, we have the minister and we have the big department which is supported of Russian system of protected areas. Of course, we have some difficulties, and our minister now maybe should more of thinking about the system of protected areas.
Never think enough, I know. And never enough money, never enough attention.
This is the same
But
story.
but
Yes, this is the same story in Russia, maybe as all other countries. But of course, the system is developed, and they try to support it. The system is it's not destroying system. Anyway, for us, it's good when it's developed, when it exists, when it is not. When the government supported, the government tried to do all the best. Of course, they have problems. Of course, the system could be developed better in a more better way, in a proper way. But
I understand. I think I
for
understand your
example,
answer.
The last nature reserve, the new nature reserve, was established just recently. So this is one. It's called Kalagrivsky Les, which appeared a few months ago, and I consider this like a very positive features, because it means that the government come through this situation when they're not pay enough attention and start to establish even new nature protected areas. So that's good. Yes, and as you told, that financial support never enough, but anyway, it's developed, it exists, and the people are working there, and we conserve we are proud of our protected area system. We conserve it. We wanted to do all the best, and we consider our role as a very important, because we wanted to show through the ecotourism how wonderful places we have, how great system of protected areas we have, and this is the all world meaning of this system, not only Russia, what I told.
May I add a few words? And there is a number of international conservation organizations that pay attention and invest some funding, grant some funding for ecotourism development in Russian nature reserves in various regions of Russia. And during the last 10 years of our activity, we implemented the grants for ecotourism development in Siberia, Altai, Sayansk, and Tuva mountains at the border with Mongolia. This was via the funding from the ROLL program, launched by the United States Institute for Sustainable Communities and United States Agency for International Development. Also, we worked a lot with the grants from WWF on the Russian Far East, and Amur Land and Ussuri Land. And with the ROLL program, we worked in the Caucasus and in Karelia. And one of our last projects was ecotourism assessment and ecotourism development strategies in Kamchatka nature reserves, funded by United Nations Development Project.
That's lots of international support. If the average citizen in Russia, how likely are they to vacation and visit the protected areas?
Not understand.
People living in Russia, for their vacation or weekend to do something, do they go to the national parks and protected areas to visit?
Yes, during the last years, the Russian travelers became more and more active in terms of ecological tourism. If some 10 years ago our major customers were Western eco-travelers, now the situation totally changed. And now more than 2/3 of our visitors are from Russia. It's very well-educated people with relatively high level of income who have traveled the most interesting nature sites all over abroad. And now they are eager to learn more about their own country. Some regions that were formerly closed for Russian people, like Kamchatka, like Chukotka, and they are very active travelers. And some of them have visited almost all the interesting our scheduled destinations, and every year they're asking for some new routes. And for example, this year we carry out a number of programs for Russian travelers in such remote and exotic destinations like Yakutia, Lena River, and Usliensky Nature Reserve, the biggest in Russia behind the Polar Circle. And we also carry out a number of programs for Chukotka, in Chukotka, Chukchi Peninsula, extreme northeast of Russia at the border with Alaska, for observation whales, walrus rookeries, and make acquaintance with indigenous
I would like to add a little bit more about this. You see, Russia is always special country, and for our system of protected territories, historically, never was for the travel and for ecotourism. Up to the beginning of 90, only two functions was implemented in our system of protected areas. This is protection and science. And even ecological education wasn't normally developed in the Russian system of protected areas, especially ecotourism. Ecotourism up to now, this is a question which is very much discussed among the Nature Conservation Agency and scientists and other people. Is it possible or not to develop ecotourism in the system of protected areas? And so there are no habits and no, even for Russian people, it is not known that it is possible. And the big question, how it should be managed, that it should be that all system was not disturbed. And of course, it's a question of education very much, and education of the especially Russian people, because they have lack of knowledge. What does it mean, ecotourism? What is the behavior and how it should be arranged? So this is a big part of our job as well with our customer, to implement and to introduce the system of, even for them, the system of protected areas and the possibility to travel there. This is one thing. And the other, which I mentioned, that we work very much with the young children. And we established a program which is ecological camps for the children from Moscow. And so we take them to them together with Moscow government. Actually, we organized about 10 ecological camps each year in the basis of nature protected area system. And to be the part of this program, children should very actively work in the conservation field during the whole winter. They have their book where they mentioned all the activities and all the events of conservation events in which they took part. And after this, it's allowed for them. They could be the winner in this program.
Right.
So,
quickly, how large is the market? You said 2/3 of them are domestic now. What's the total number of people last year?
It depends on the region. For example, the Kamchatka...
the country in general, roughly. What's the size of the
number
market?
of domestic tourists in Russia.
To the ecotourism type activities. You're saying 2/3 were domestic.
Yes, it depends on the region. In Kamchatka, for example, the annual number of visitors, of domestic visitors, is about maybe 5,000. In some nature, because this region, Kamchatka, is quite remote, it's quite expensive to go there. But some nature areas around Moscow, for example, are visited by several million Russian tourists and children per year, because it's very easy to come there from Moscow for a weekend trip, and we also organize weekend trips.
Thank you. In terms of investment, who's investing from the private sector money into developing the hospitality establishments, attractions, and other services?
Difficult to answer because, particularly in ecotourism, if we are talking about ecotourism, it's actually I don't know who is really investing in these sectors, and in terms of business, ecotourism is not considered as a real economical sector. So it's at least yet, it is. There are some investment, and it's very. Good development among maybe the local people who start to involved in this business, which could be considered as a part of ecotourism development. And it is some companies' investment, it is some government investment. Actually, just now in Russia, the government decided to introduce the program, which is they choose several areas, which called recreation economical zone for particular development of tourism there. Actually, this is good for the economy because this is some new zone, and this is they pay attention for the tourism in general, but it's not connected with ecotourism. So for us, it's different. We should thinking how in this developing they should conserve and think about the protected areas and vulnerable places.
Sounds like a very large ecotourism market, lots of opportunities for people, investors, local communities, NGOs, world banks, regional banks, and we don't have enough time today, but we're going to need to follow up and with you and other people in the industry and learn more about tourism opportunities. Thank you very much.